Welcome to today's stream, everybody. We're going to be talking about the Palestine Laboratory. I think this is the first time I've reviewed Anthony Lowenstein's book twice, one for the Stephen Heiner channel and then one for Palestine Bookshelf when it was its own channel. And now I'm doing a documentary. So I feel like I'm very familiar now with Anthony's work, but I think that if you haven't read the book, which is not a very long book anyway, but if you haven't, this is a great introduction to it. And the two parts of the documentary, which are linked in the description, if you didn't have a chance to read them before today's If you didn't have a chance to watch them before today's stream, you can watch them later. And they divide the book. They divide the documentary into the two parts of the book that I noticed when I read it myself the first time, which is here's what the technology is, and then secondly, how it's being exported around the world. As I noted in my original reviews, I'm less interested in that second part insofar as this is Palestine Bookshelf and we want to be entirely focused on the Palestinian people. But I do appreciate that the angle that Anthony is going for, which then may make him expand his reach, is he's letting people know in their countries who may not really have ever known or cared about the Palestinians, hey, by the way, here's how you're participating in the killing, the suppression of the Palestinians is by your country buying this technology. So I'll talk about that briefly, but I mostly want to talk about the front part of his book and episode 1 in the documentary, which is about the surveillance that enables the genocide, not just when there are periods of so-called peace, you could say quiet with the Palestinians, but now especially during a period of aggression, of violence. And I'll try to remember after this, to put a link of the 2 reviews that I've done on Anthony's book in the description. Now, he starts the documentary in Israel, and even though he's a Jew, he is afraid he might not be able to come in because he has spoken out against. And that's something I've also feared as well. The next time that I go there, will I be allowed in? I'm a much smaller fish than he is, so I feel that if he got in, no problem. But he is a Jew as well, so that might be the other side of it. Is it's a much bigger lift for them to deny entrance to Israel to someone who's a Jew, not so much for a Gentile like myself. So we start there in Israel, and we talk with a man who should normally have a 20-minute commute, but it's 3.5 hours because of the checkpoints, and we've heard of this before. And there's a talk about the transition from the normally manned checkpoints, what I experienced when I was in Jerusalem and when I was in Israel, to this these frictionless checkpoints using technology, and the idea for the Israelis that this is safer. We don't have to put these bodies in jeopardy. And for the Palestinians, it's deadlier because not only will these machines be even more pitiless than the Israelis, who already like shooting civilians and letting women deliver their children at checkpoints, but they're more invasive. So the drones, the cameras are collecting more information. There's a software called Red Wolf, which is analyzing facial structures. They're telling me, one of the Palestinians was saying, maybe I came home from a discussion and I was upset with somebody, but if my face shows that I'm upset, then this indicates to the software that I plan to commit an attack, and then this person might be scooped up and jailed. So Red Wolf is in effect, and then this software gets sold to other people. It says it's battle tested. We would then see furtherance of this during the aggression that started on October the 7th, the aggression from the Israeli side, with Lavender AI and the subprogram Daddy's Home, in which case they would target people specifically when they were home with their families, so they would kill everyone. And Anthony interviews a couple Israelis, one, the former head of Shin Bet, Yaakov Perry, as well as someone named Yossi Melman, who comments on the number of casualties that were permissible by SOP when using these weapons, when using these drones. And they said that prior to this time period, the amount of quote unquote collateral damage was tolerated was much lower. So you could have something like 5 for a junior Hamas official and maybe 10 or 15 for a senior Hamas official. But during this recent wave of aggression from the Israelis, they were talking about 15 for a junior member of Hamas and maybe as many as 100 for a senior member of Hamas. So all of these things combine together on the Palestinians. And then as far as activists, people outside Palestine, we have Pegasus, which you may have heard of before. Pegasus is a software that goes onto your phone that spies on you, and it's hard to detect. Although I found out it was either Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch has developed a software which you can find on GitHub, which can scan your phone to find out, which once I can figure out GitHub a bit more, I will scan my phone. Again, I'm small fish, but I think just the process of going through it is instructive. So I will let you know if Pegasus was on my phone or not. I suspect no, but it's still worth checking. The second episode, as I said, how do I take this technology and monetize it after I've used it on defenseless civilians? And one of the tagline selling points, it might have been of Elbeat. Was it Elbeat? I'm not certain. Someone in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but secure the world's most challenging borders. And of course, the question is, why is it a challenging border? The reveal, I think, of the documentary, I knew it because I had read it in the book, but it was still a great reminder, and something I think I probably forgot about, is that India buys more weapons from Israel than anyone else, and that they also let Israel use their own space launch capability. So when they're launching satellites into space, they will allow Israel to launch things into space as well, whereas other countries will not. So they have this close relationship tied to their current governing ideas. So India as a Hindu supremacist idea, and that Muslims are the outsiders, the interlopers. So too the Israelis with this Jewish supremacist idea, and the Muslims, so-called, are the interlopers. Of course, we know Palestinians are not all Muslims, but the point is they both have a vision for the outsider, which they view as Muslim, who must be put down, eradicated, kicked out. And that's why there's simpatico between those two regimes. And you can't change that, just like you had the simpatico between Israel and South Africa during the apartheid time. They both thought, oh, the whole world's against us. We can lean on each other. We understand each other, don't we? And I thought that Gideon Levy gives us the best quote at the end, in which he says, Israel ignores everyone and all the condemnation, but it is still loved by everyone. That's the great paradox of Israel on the world stage. So it's probably, I want to say 45 minutes for each episode, which is an hour and a half of your time. And if you're like myself, a 2X person, you can watch it a little faster. But I think it's a good investment, and you'll learn more, particularly, as I said, if you haven't read his book, here's one way to get a lot of what's in the book. And with visuals that you can't, obviously, these are different media. When you're reading a book, you have to imagine a lot of things. When you see videos, you get to see a lot of things. One isn't better than the other. I always hate that comparison. I like the book better than the movie. That's like comparing, a poem to an opera. These are not the same thing. So they're both useful and they're both helpful. And I think it's excellent that Al-Jazeera talked to Anthony about doing this, and that he agreed to do it. He had to fly all around, and it was work. Some people say, oh, that's a tough job. He had to go and work in all these places that he flew around to. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Anthony, for doing that. Quick reminder, these are not yet available, but hoping they will be soon. Postcards, which you can hand out to people. They have a QR code, which takes people straight to the shelf, has our website, and then 15 different ways that you can get our content: articles, podcasts, videos, every link for every sort of channel you can imagine. Give these out to people. We'll have these in the store fairly soon. And then along with that, as usual, our Hen Rajab fundraiser using stickers. 100% of the proceeds from these sticker sales which you can put them on your water bottle, you put them on your laptop, notebooks, places to start conversations with people and get them asking questions or engaging with them thoughtfully. So you find all of that at PalestineBookshelf.org. Check out that and see other reviews that you might be interested other than the book and the review we've been talking about here. I do not see any questions in the chat. So if you're watching this later, feel free to ask questions or make comments. I always like to engage as often as I can with people who engage civilly. If you remember to do so, please hit like, subscribe, hype, share this video with people. I just found out the other day, after 6 months in YouTube jail, we are back on the road to monetization and we have 400 hours to go for the first step. So we're 87% of the way there and would need your help. So that just means watching as many videos as you can on this channel on YouTube. So, let me know in the comments if you're able to do that and how many hours you can watch, and we'll see how quickly we can get those final 400 hours done. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you hopefully in a couple days. There's a giant snowstorm heading to the United States, and it may prevent me getting to the Hind Rajab, the film that's screening tomorrow. When I say prevent me getting, that's one part of it, but they may decide to reschedule it, and they already have a backup reschedule date to next Friday. But in any case, I hope I get to see that film and hope to get to share it with you all. See you on the next live stream.